In the previous video, we saw the formation of the imperfecto, how it is conjugated. Now we are going to look at how it is used, in what circumstances and under which condition. Number one, the imperfecto is used to describe or narrate something habitual in the past, kind of action that was commonly done, frequently done, repeatedly done in the past. In English, the most common way to express that concept is the construction I used to, followed by an infinitive. I used to walk, I used to eat, I used to study, I used to think. Here I'm using the example, I used to walk in the park. In Italiano it will be io camminavo nel parco. In English there is another construction that expresses a frequent action in the past, and it is I would plus the verb. I would work 10 hours a day. I would study at night. And in Italiano it would be obviously io lavoravo, io studiavo. Quick review. Imperfetto in Italian describes or narrates an habitual action in the past. Still comparing to English, the imperfecto translates the English past progressive. An expression like I was listening, which becomes in Italiano ascoltavo. And here we now have an example with imperfetto and passato prossimo. I was watching TV when you called. Guardavo la TV quando tu hai telefonato. If we analyze it, we see that guardavo indicates an action that is ongoing. If we look at hai telefonato, it is a discrete action, just something that happened and ended, while the first activity was still going on. Guardavo, I was watching. Another category, the imperfecto is used very commonly with expressions of age and weather. This is not a strict rule, but let's call it a generalization. Most often, again, age and weather use the imperfetto. Quando avevo 10 anni, andavo a scuola a piedi. When I was 10 years old, I used to go, or I would go to school on foot. With an expression of weather, ieri c'era il sole, or ieri pioveva, nevicava in montagna, era nuvoloso. All of these verbs take the imperfetto. And now we are going to tackle the most complex aspect of the imperfetto. Complex because it involves a cognitive dimension and an understanding of how languages work that for us is unconscious. It takes place without us thinking how it works. Let's look again at the passato prossimo. The passato prossimo conveys a lot of information with this form. It is telling the audience that a certain action started, took place, and ended. legitimately you would say, well, of course, it's in the past, it must have ended. But that is not the point. The point is the information that is contained in the verb form. Io ho letto un libro. You are telling whoever is listening that you started reading, you completed the action, and the action is now over. So although we are not fully conscious of the meaning of our words, with this sentence, io ho letto un libro, we are saying that a certain action started, happened, and finished. It was completed. Let's compare it with I was reading a book. You're not saying that the action started and ended. This is not in the information contained in the verb. I was reading simply says that you were reading the book. You were in the state of reading the book. It's not a completed action. Okay, let's visualize passato prossimo. This shows a vertical bar that sets the start, the horizontal bar, the development, the occurring of the action, and the other vertical bar at the end, it's the end of an action. It's contained, complete. Here we have a sequence of actions that are each completed. Ho mangiato, ho bevuto, ho fumato. A series of action, each one is completed. We use the term discrete to describe each one of these actions. Okay, now let's see what the imperfetto looks like. Here is the image. The imperfetto is the blue line. Mentre mangiavo. I was in the process of eating. It's an ongoing action. While this action took place in the background, something happened. I drank a glass of wine. It was a contained, completed action. I was eating and I drank. And that is why we are using the two different tenses to indicate the two different temporal dimensions. And here we have a couple of examples. While I was driving, I had an accident. I had an accident is the discrete action that took place. While I was driving is the background action. I was in a state of driving. Mentre guidavo ho avuto un incidente. And here we have, when I was living in Italy, I drank cappuccino every morning. Analyze this. I was living. Quando vivevo in Italia, bevevo cappuccino tutti i giorni. Quando vivevo, I was living. And then, or when I lived, same thing. Quando vivevo. Then you know that an habitual action, tutti i giorni, requires the imperfetto, therefore, bevevo.